volume.
Previously on Too Many Enemies.
He was waiting on the day of the incident at a taxi rank with some of these co-accused when one of the guys got a call from Rusi.
He calls the shots, basically. He's the one that called them. He's the one that said, okay, we need to take this guy out. And that's according to them. And he's the one that, gave them money for it. He's the one that paid them. And he paid them in wads of money, wads of hard cash.
Why doesn't he have any control in this case? Why is that?
Every dog has its day.
On my left is Mamelodi taxi rank. It's full of white minibus taxis, vicious hooting, and people trying to get home, or to work, or to school. It's a transport hub for thousands of people, and where alleged assassin Rusi Matabela, the man who is on trial for Wandile Bozwana's murder, still holds a considerable amount of power. I'm driving to meet Stema Monageng, the deputy chairperson of Malta, or the Mamelodi Long Distance Taxi Association at Tshwane Mall. He insists I call him SK. He's a businessman, heavily involved with taxis, though not the same taxi organization as Vusi. There are several in Mamelodi. Still, he walks through the mall with his own private security. Struts, I should say.
If they want to kill me, they'll kill me here. I'm staying here. I'm not going.
Do you worry about that?
About that?
About getting killed?
No, everyone worried about this.
Yeah.
Everyone, come I tell you, everyone is worried about that. Everyone is worried about that.
As we are walking through the mall on the way to the taxi rank in the basement, he pulls out a video to show me on Facebook. It's a video of men shooting guns.
Look at this. It's a township lifestyle. This happened yesterday. Just shooting.
Jeez. What are they shooting?
They're shooting at each other. See people there. There's a gun there. See there? See there?
Is this in Mamelodi?
Yeah, they're right down here on the hostels and everything. So I like to live in Mamelodi. Most of people like me, they don't stay here anymore.
They've moved out?
They've moved out, so I don't want to move out.
Yeah.
So I rather stay with my protection. I like my territory.
So why do you stay here?
I like Mamelodi.
You like it?
Yeah. If I want to walk alone, be free, and then I must go to live in the cities.
Okay. So
I like Mamelodi.
Are those guys shooting? Did anyone get shot or?
I don't have the story. I'm trying to get the full detail of what's happening. But this is what's happening here in township.
Yeah.
So you can never be safe.
Yeah.
You can never be safe. Look, guns are like flying around.
I ask SK about the violence between the taxi organizations in Mamelodi. There have been reports of cars being burned, people being murdered, and plenty of it Vusi Matabela has been allegedly linked to.
I hate the taxi violence. Let me tell you why I hate the taxi violence. We fight. After we fight, we go to the table, resolving the issues. Mm-hmm. Why didn't we do that from the beginning? Why did we start with violence?
I don't know why.
See, that's why I hate that kind of a violence that's created by us, people, taxi people sometimes. Then one must say, maybe our government only here when you toy-toying.
Toy-toying is a South African term for protest, usually with plenty of singing and dancing.
But then when you're killing each other, we're not toy-toying. No, it's different.
And they're not listening when you're killing each other.
Yeah, it's different. It's different.
What you should know about SK, something that shocked me, and I only found out after we met at the mall, is that he spent almost 3 weeks in police custody in March 2019, following a police operation to take down people who allegedly worked with Vusi KK. He was arrested as an accomplice to extortion and intimidation of Mamelodi business people to sums exceeding 600,000 rand, so about $35,000. He was released on bail and eventually acquitted of the charges, but still, I had to confront him about it over the phone.
Hi, SK, how are you?
I'm good at you.
I'm good, man. This is Paul McNally. Remember we met the other week?
I asked him about Vusi.
Yeah, we were acquitted because there was no evidence of all those false allegations and everything. It was actually unlawful arrest. Let's call it that way.
How did that happen? How did you get mixed up with that?
They acted on the false information. They just said my company was extorting money. But without them investigating my company, they just arrested us.
This is SK's security company, including the guys who were protecting him when we met at the mall.
The allegations, it was that my company is extorting.
Yeah.
The extortion, they said my company is extorting. They didn't follow suit. They didn't do the investigation of that it's true or not. They just jump and arrest.
Okay, and were you quite upset that this all happened?
I was very upset. In fact, I'm even thinking of, I've actually instructed my attorney to look in terms of the lawsuit because it was embarrassment for me.
Okay, yeah. Because I guess you're kind of getting involved.
Yeah, it was defamation of character. It was humiliation. It was everything. My reputation. It was first time arrest. Yeah, I'm telling you, everything was a mess up with me.
Because you spent quite a few weeks in police custody, didn't you?
I spent 3 weeks there.
3 weeks, yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to ask you about it just to see what you thought.
No, that was finished. That was laid to rest.
This entire world feels like it has been touched by Vusi. His name comes up even where criminal accusations, however unsubstantiated, are raised against deputy chairs of rival taxi associations, and they are then arrested. I need to find someone who is trying to reverse the trend, uphold the law, and make a change. Welcome to Too Many Enemies. I'm Paul McNally. This is episode 4 of 6, where we will be investigating the assassination of billionaire Wandile Bozwana and what his murder means for the state of politics, crime, and justice in South Africa today. We pick up the story mostly around Vusi KK and the taxi industry in the offices of Hetty Grunewald.
The screen is a good addition.
Yeah.
She is sitting behind a clear plastic screen that she's had fitted in her office. You can hear on the mic she's a little muffled because of it. The screen is so she can have meetings in her office face to face in the time of Corona. All the video calls, she says, weren't working for her. To understand why I'm here, here's a Newsroom Africa report from the 1st of July, 2020.
The Gauteng government has dissolved the Mamelodi Taxi Association following acts of violence in the area. Gauteng Transport MEC Jacob Mamabolo lodged an urgent application with the court following the violence which claimed the lives of at least 19 people.
So the taxi association called MARTA, which Vusi was associated with, had its executive committee dissolved. And this is important for our story because the dissolving of this organization was as a result of violence and extortion that Vusi was allegedly connected to. Here's Hetty.
MARTA experienced a lot of violence on their routes. Then the MEC of Transport, Mr. Jacob Mamabola, decided to bring an application to the court.
Now, Hetty didn't think a court case was the way to go for sorting out the violence and theft within the association.
Then I went to his office and I had like an interview with him, and I gave him the background, my background, where I come from. I've been working for taxi associations for very, very long. I've been a qualified attorney for 40 years. So I know a lot about the industry. At the end of the day, we then settled the court order, and my committee was then appointed in that court order to assist me, and I was then appointed by the MEC on can I just bear with me a moment, on the 6th of July 2020, and then my appointment was for 3 months.
Mama Bolo decided not to close the routes or suspend operating permits so people's commutes wouldn't be affected.
Now, the committee consists of the people from the old executive that was left.
When she says left, as in remaining, she means those that haven't been killed.
None of us is a chairman. There's no chairman anymore. None of the committee members are called treasurers or, vice chairpersons or disciplinary or anything like that. Martha then did not have a good name because they were always people, were accusing them of causing the violence of,
I'm sitting in an office with Hetty behind the plastic screen and 3 men who call themselves advisors. They used to be on the executive committee. I ask as politely as I can about Vusi KK. How is he involved? And how can he be stopped? I gesture my microphone at everyone in the room to see who wants to answer my question.
Does anyone want to?
Okay, I will speak about it. I think it's the best that I speak about it.
No one wants to talk about the topic of Vusi besides Hetty.
Look, Vusi KK is well known, I think, in the media, because there's been many reports of him, and if you would Google his name, you will see where he was all involved. On the previous executive, there was a Mr. Matibela, who's related to him, that was also killed.
This is Vusi's uncle, who sat on the executive of the association, but was eventually murdered. According to Hetty, Vusi used these family connections to gain power in the industry.
They didn't die of old age, they were killed. Now this all had to do with politics inside, a power thing, a power struggle. Now, in that reversing, Vusi KK's name came up a lot of times.
Reversing is a term given to the act of bringing cars in from other places, other organizations, or wherever, and putting them in line at the ranks. The taxi business is a competition for passengers. And if you have the audacity to bring in extra cars, push them in line, and fill them with people, this is called reversing. It's also, I must say, a major cause of violence. Then Hetty confirmed something that I've read several times in the press.
Vusi KK collected money from the taxis illegally as well. And obviously, all the taxis are a bit scared to speak about him because violence might follow. No matter whether he's in the prison or not in the prison. We'll, So when I investigate these type of things, the people that come and report to me, it is one of the things that I promised them, and I stick to my promise. I will tell the right people about the classified, if you could put it, information that I get. It's a bit of a dangerous zone that I move into, but I just feel that one must get to the root of problems, and he was one of the root of problems, and we still identify him as the root of the problems.
Hetty is busy investigating how other members of Vusi's family have mysteriously acquired operating licenses.
The executive of Martha also didn't bother to go to the department and try and protect Martha. They were only in there for their own money. They took money left, right and centre from cars. They stole money from the executive. That was one of the reasons why so many of them were killed, because it was revenge kill, and that's why we're only left with 5 people. I'm so grateful that these people were not killed.
Hetty is incredibly dedicated to collecting information from her sources in order to keep her people safe.
I know maybe people will now say, after I've spoken to you now, we are going to create violence or we're going to infiltrate them, because we know there's people that want to infiltrate. I also know who they are.
Hetty means people that want to infiltrate MARTA, the taxi association that she's administering.
And I work with law enforcement because of the infiltration that we suspect. And that infiltration will cause chaos again, because there's a power struggle. Always in taxis there's a power struggle. Previous executive, they voted out, they don't like it to be voted out, they form a concern group, and they cause violence within the association.
Hetty says that there is a constitution for each of these taxi associations, but some people just don't follow them. And for Martha, she is going to rewrite the constitution from scratch.
And before we go to elections, I'm first going, as soon as we can, call an AGM with all the members and then produce this new constitution. And I'm going to ask them to give me their input of, are they happy with it? What should we put in? Because like with my route committees now, I've told them about the constitution.
Hetty believes this sense of togetherness can help. This is all in aid of stopping pockets of dissonance, because that lack of communication is what leads to resentment that, according to Hetty, can lead to violence.
Now, there are people I know that hasn't got operating licenses now, but we are also going to see, can't we assist them? Why don't they have operating licenses? Because I can't just reject them. I've got people operating on a route, we call them floaters. It's a general term in the taxi business. They don't have a specific committee or anything like that. They just float on a specific route. But they don't have operating license. But they've been there like 15 years. And I have invited them, they've been to my office. I've told them, bring me the names, bring me the registration numbers of your vehicles. Let me go to the department, let me see what I can do to you. You know, I don't want to push the elderly out.
This is to say that a new constitution and elections won't necessarily quell the fear that her people have for Vusi KK. She says that the levels of fear that they have for the man is immense.
But I mean, they're so scared of him. So they give, well, I won't say him, but various other people who become so strong, money. So with that money, he can manipulate many, many people. Because the other problem is, what do they do with that money? Most of the time is to contract in cabis.
Contract what?
In cabis.
Hetty turns to the advisor on her left to make sure she is pronouncing the word properly.
In cabis. In cabis is a well-known fact.
It's another word for assassin.
People, they normally come from KwaZulu-Natal. They are hired killers. Then these people will collect money extra on the routes. That money will go to the pockets of the hired killers. They will come in from KwaZulu-Natal, move in, shoot, move out.
Right.
Our police force have got a problem because they don't have all the resources to, like, for instance, collect the, say, for instance, the bullets, you know, on one scene, compare it to another scene. And then, you know, form and, because these things are related. It doesn't matter if it happens at Martha or it happens in Joburg or Soweto. But these guys move in, shoot and move out. It's a mafia.
And you're ultimately collecting money from people and using that money to hire killers to kill the same people.
That's exactly.
So does Vusi being imprisoned mean he is less involved in this volatile industry?
No, look, it's still in the background.
Yeah.
And every morning when we get up, we fear it might happen again. You know, we because I can run this association. But if people see no, this association is now getting somewhere, we're going to cause havoc. That's the problem. That's the thing that we fear, because it's an in and out. When they come, they will target the person and then they will go out again.
I shift around in my chair and try to ask, as sensitively as I can, if Hetty thinks that her advisors and her could also become targets.
I can't say that we are target. I don't have that type of information. I know that one of my members have got his own security company that looks after him 24/7. Of course, at his expenses. But that is, I can't tell you why. Because it's for him to decide if he needs security. Yeah. You know, the MEC told me that security will be provided for me, and if need be, I will obviously get security allocated to me myself. I don't want to waste the government's money on something like that. But when it happens, okay, then I will have to accept that.
I'm suddenly struck, not for the first time while on this story, how much danger we could all be in for just showing interest, or in Hetty's case, trying to help the situation.
We all, people fear them. How do we eradicate it as members? We can't, because it's like an execution or a drive-by shooting. It's often in the news that there was a drive-by shooting and some member of a taxi association was killed. And it's normally done by them.
Hetty is outraged that this violence has a knock-on effect deep into our communities, with regards to the trauma they experience and just practical effects like people not being able to get to work when the routes stop functioning.
So it has a vast thing, and then it's taxi violence. But you know, people don't understand what causes taxi violence. There's many innocent operators, many more than these little groups that cause taxi violence. And now you think it's obviously the operators and the owners want to operate. Why would they want to have taxi violence if they can operate and earn money to pay their payments? Why would they instigate it? They get money from every road that they run. So if you think back, the public must understand there are groups that form violence.
When you were talking about the assassins and bringing those in, what do you feel, I mean, beyond just putting more police force on it, what do you feel is a solution to that? Like, what is a...
It's very difficult. It's so difficult. What you have to do is keep your members happy, keep your operators happy. Run a proper place. Let them feel they're part of association. So that when violence might erupt, that they immediately come to me. We've got a rule now. If you just think of something, come to me. But once we have a very good, how can I say, association that really looks after their people, we won't have these splinter groups and power crazy people.
How did you get involved in this in the beginning?
Look, I used to be a criminal lawyer. So lo and behold, I tried to work for a few companies, didn't work, and I opened my own business.
So the taxi wars in those days were about
obtaining the most property where they can operate on. So there were a lot of shooting incidents, so I started defending the guys who stayed alive. And from there, I got to know my taxis, and obviously with regulation, when that came in, and then, you know, automatically people that know you come to you. And it was always my wish that I could get to the place where I'm now, to assist them. Because nobody assists these people. To the best of my ability, I'm not perfect, I don't know everything, but at least to structure them.
When Hetty arrived at MARTA, there was no bookkeeping system in place. She's changed that, and her initial job was, within 3 months, to get MARTA to a free and fair election. They're going to ask for an extension so this can become a reality.
MARTA's offices burned down last year. It was never properly investigated to see who the culprits were, but it burned all the documents. They had absolutely no documents left. So obviously we had to start collecting whatever we can.
And it is important to remember that taxis receive no subsidy from the government. They're on their own, despite servicing a major part of the transport system. As for the police, they've been involved, but only to a certain extent.
I am in the fortunate position that I can pick up the phone and then phone law enforcement, and then they attend to the problem. We try to prevent violence. So if we see a small little problem that can create violence, we immediately call law enforcement and ask them to go there before it gets out of hand.
Right.
And I have good cooperation from law enforcement. Law enforcement do not come from Mamelodi. I can explain to you, I can give you an example. There is a group of people which are thousands and thousands at this stage. It's a thing that is it's very prevalent in taxi associations. It's people that call themselves 4+1s.
The name comes from 4 passengers and the driver, and they aren't route-based. They can go anywhere, more like a traditional cab that picks up several people at once.
The 4+1s, they go right into the various townships. They pick these people up and they drive right to, say, Menlyn Mall, to whatever mall the people want to go to. And obviously they take a lot of our clients' passengers. At Nalmapia's mall...
So they're not following routes, basically?
They don't have routes, they don't have operating license. They, as far as I'm concerned, vigilantes in a way. They do have their own committee, you know, under which they operate.
They just do whatever they want.
And then they just sort of like take all the passengers from Malta. Take passengers from Malta, because Malta is the other association that's operating in Mamelodi. So that is a very big problem, and it causes a lot of violence. Now what happened at Nalmapias, for instance? Violence broke out. These guys from the from 4+1s came onto the rank. They actually damaged one of Malta's vehicles to such an extent that it is a write-off. The vehicle was overturned right on its, completely overturned. So the roof, the windows, everything is wrong. Then the other thing that happened is the 4+1 started shooting. Jeez. My taxis have various, I've got photographs of where my taxis was actually shot at and where they have bullet holes in it. It's not something that... And then my problem is, and I am quite prepared to say it, and I most probably won't be very popular with it, but Mamelodi police do not assist us. On that specific incident, you see the police vehicles, the vans, parked there, doing absolutely nothing.
Really?
And these poor guys of mine, because of this, we don't want fights anymore. Of course, they won't fight back.
Yeah.
They just stand there.
Yeah.
And what 4+1s also do is they will get the community to riot against our taxis because of they saying, oh, but we have to wait until your taxi is full by this 4+1. Pick us up there at our houses, travel straight to the mall, pick us up there again, go straight back into the township. So they will get the community behind them. So it's not just 4+1s that come when there's violence. They bring the community with them.
Do you think the protests were helpful in the fact they brought in this administration and is that what happened?
No. The protests did not help. They were violence. We call it violence, not even protest.
Right.
In taxi-related things, you can't say it's a protest. The protest is when they go slow because of petrol or something like that.
Right.
That is a protest. But once people push in, that's violence. That's criminal.
Because people were. I read that someone set some. Some of the taxis were set on fire.
Yes.
And was that in protest of Rusi's involvement?
No. It's a fight. It's not a protest.
Okay.
It's opposite the position who might support him. That come in and create a havoc. So once there's havoc, what's the easiest thing? We push our cars in there.
Right.
So this is those things where there's shootings, where there's burning of taxis, anything that's taxi violence, that's criminal. When we protest as taxi associations against whatever, like because you don't get a subsidy. That's a protest.
Right.
But there's a difference in the taxi industry.
Okay.
It's always, it's not controlled. It's just violence. Everybody fears for their lives. Everybody would ran away.
And is that what happened in June this year, around that time?
Before June, no. That's what happened. But then also the basic thing which the MEC had specifically went to court was because of the Busikekis in the association. Because it got out of control. Now we mentioned Busikeke and he most probably will be very upset about it. But he's not the only person that was involved here. The only reason why we can say that is because I refer to court papers that was filed by the MEC. That is where I get my information from. So it is not because I'm trying to slander somebody. It's facts that was under affidavit.
What's important to remember is alleged assassins like Rusi and their operations are duplicated all across Africa. On our next episode, we are expanding the picture to look at similar assassinations across the continent and how they compare to that of Wandile Bozwana. You've been listening to Too Many Enemies. This podcast series has been produced by me, Paul McNally, and podcasting company Volume. It's brought to you by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime in partnership with News 24. You can find out more about the Global Initiative by visiting globalinitiative.net. That's globalinitiative.net. The music for this series was composed by Aman Mori. This episode was mixed and mastered by Gwynch Sarame and Richard Rumney. Join me next time for the 5th episode in this series of Too Many Enemies. Goodbye. Next time on Too Many Enemies.
On November the 22nd, 2000, Cardoso was gunned down in the streets of Maputo. Cardoso's chief concern at the time was corruption in Mozambique, and he exposed the country's growing drug smuggling syndicates, fraud and embezzlement involving business people and politicians.
So this is one of the most emblematic assassinations, which not only assassinated Matavel, but also it set a juncture for democratic closure and the thinking of the civic and democratic space here in Mozambique.
Volume.